Hi! Throughout history, art supplies have been made with some really crazy things. Things that are now banned, considered dangerous, and some things that are just straight up illegal. So of course, as I do on this channel, don't ask me how I did it, but I bought some. And today we're gonna try these bad boys out with a lot of caution, of course. And we'll see if these illegal art supplies are better than modern day ones. So let's get into it. All right, so for this very first art supply, we have a paint thinner. And before I get any farther into this video, I think for the first time ever, I'm gonna put a warning for the rest of this video because the art supplies that I'm going to be talking about in this video have some very serious health effects. So if that kind of thing freaks you out, this might not be the video for you. But if you do choose to stay, this paint thinner is called turpentine. Turpentine itself is originally made from distilling the resin of pine trees. And your first initial thought is probably, well, it's from pine trees. It sounds like it's safe. It's from a tree. Like, how bad can it be? No, turpentine is absolutely horrible for the human body.
Here's the risk. The National Library of Medicine says inhaling the fumes could make you throw up or lose consciousness. Even applied topically, your skin could be irritated. And if swallowed, turpentine oil can irritate your digestive system, even injure your kidneys. The director of Georgia Poison Center says plugging the benefits are, quote, dangerous and irresponsible. And as for kids, swallowing turpentine oil could mean serious risk, even death.
At the 1 teaspoon dosage, there are some serious reported adverse effects. It's kidney toxic, coma. As little as 3 teaspoons are fatal.
And here in America, this little bottle that I have here, in order for them to even have sold it to me, it has to be heavily filtered, heavily processed, and have met the government standards for purity. And if any of you guys have seen the movie The Lighthouse with Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, they drink this liquid that makes them go crazy, and that liquid that they're drinking is actually sweetened turpentine. And it's kind of funny because like on the back of the packaging, it's just a giant list of warnings. Keep away from flames or sparks. Flammable, harmful, or fatal if swallowed. Only use in a well-ventilated area. Wear a mask or respirator. Keep out of reach of children. If swallowed, do not induce vomiting. Call a physician immediately. Turpentine is some very serious stuff, okay? So when I use this, I'm gonna be outside and suited up heavily.
First up, I'm gonna put 2 blobs of oil paint, and I'm gonna compare the turpentine to Gamsol. Gamsol is the modern day paint thinner specifically made for oil painters. It's much safer and has a much lower evaporation rate. First up is the Gamsol, dipped directly into the tank and onto the paint. And look at that, it gives a nice, normal, beautiful, clean, green swatch that you can easily build up. And now let's check out the turpentine. This, I'm just gonna dip my brush directly into it. And the turpentine thinned it out so much that it looks like watercolor instead of thick oil paint. And it ate through the paint so violently and so quickly that when I went to show you the swatch, it liquefied the actual paint on top.
So yeah, I would say that turpentine, even though it does work, nowadays we just have so many more options that are just so much safer and basically do the same thing without the risk of dying. And given the fact that it's more expensive than a regular safer solvent, I feel like turpentine can just stay in the past. All right, next up, we have an art supply that I would say is the most famous art supply that everybody knows is banned. This is the color Flake White, or as you might know it, paint made from lead. Lead has been used all throughout art history, dating all the way back to the ancient Greeks and the ancient Egyptians. And the reason it was used for so long is because of its durability, pure opaque color, and its ability to hold up over time. And if you look at any pictures from the 1800s and see any kind of white paint, it was made from lead. That was the main paint that society used for about 200 years. And that was until the early 1900s, because that's when they started discovering that lead paint is actually terrible for you. If you don't know, lead poisoning can have serious and permanent effects. It can cause brains not to develop properly, organ damage, kidney damage, fertility issues, and it's just really, really nasty stuff if you get lead poisoning. After World War II, it became much harder to purchase. People started figuring out what lead poisoning and its effects were, so people didn't really want to buy it. And in 1978, it was completely banned in America. This pigment right here is actually flake white hue, which means that it's just a replica of the authentic thing. But of course, for my channel, that's not good enough. So unbelievably, I found somehow an actual can of unused lead paint. And it's in absolute perfect condition too. I need a round of applause because I'm still in shock that I was actually able to find this. So I'm excited. Let's try it out.
First up, I'm gonna test out this modern day house paint that I got at good and trusty Walmart. This paint was only like 13 bucks. It was like the cheapest house paint that I can find. And as you can see, it's very opaque and very stark white. And now for the lead paint that's at least 60 years old. And unfortunately, it was dried out. But it wasn't like dried out like a solid rock. It was dried out like Play-Doh, if that makes sense. It was really strange. But that's okay. I'm gonna dig a little bit out and see if maybe I can find some that's usable. Spoiler, I did not. And the color itself, yes, it was more of a beautiful, warm white. But babe, just go to the paint store. I'm sure you can find a million dupes in that exact same color without lead.
So again, just like the first one, I'm not very impressed with it. I just feel like nowadays we have so much more better and safer options. So I definitely think that this does not need to make a comeback. But it's still crazy I found it though. Next up, we have a children's craft toy. And you would think that finally a kid's toy, this is gonna be a break from all the dark stuff that we just covered. It's gonna be nice and easy. No. No. This one probably is the darkest one. This is a kid's toy called Aqua Dots / Aqua Beads. And how this product works is that it's made up of little beads and you arrange the beads to make a decorative figure. You spray it with water, the beads expand, and then boom, you have a little figurine. Well, the bad news is in 2007, this happened.
An international investigation is expanding tonight into the Aqua Dots recall. Those toys are contaminated with a chemical similar to the date drug. And there is late word tonight, 6 more children may have gotten sick. Stores across the U.S. and Canada and Australia were pulling the Chinese-made product off their store shelves. Retailers predicting it would be the hot toy of the holiday shopping season. Scientists are testing sets seized today in Hong Kong. If they come back positive for that chemical that has sickened a lot of children, the suppliers could be facing a year in jail and a large fine.
So yeah, in 2007, this toy was knocking kids out. It was making them go unconscious, and they were pulled off the shelves for many, many years. But now in 2024, these have made a comeback. They're completely safe now, and they are now called Aqua Beads instead of Aqua Dots. And look at the little design I made. This is kind of fun. The incident itself is scary, but the toy itself isn't scary whatsoever. In fact, I think it's kind of cool. As long as everything is completely safe, I'm glad that it made a comeback. All right, next up, we have a very seemingly innocent art supply, Toys R Us crayons. Now, upon first glance, these crayons, they're cute, they're retro, and they seem very harmless. Unfortunately, in 1994, a mother in Phoenix, Arizona found out that her baby had chewed on some of these crayons and got sick from them. She took the baby to the hospital, they did a blood test, and they discovered that these Toys R Us crayons had a toxic amount of lead inside of them. Thankfully, the baby recovered, he was okay, but if you guys remember from earlier, lead is some nasty stuff that you don't want to mess with. They decided to go ahead and recall all the crayons anyway. And of course, here are the actual crayons from this time period. And it's kind of spooky because on the packaging, it doesn't say anywhere that it conforms to ASTM 4236, which is the law that regulates if the crayons stuck to the safety standards or not. And as if that wasn't spooky enough, whenever I was looking at these crayons, even though they're only about 30 years old, they're badly disintegrated, which, to give you context, these rose art crayons are also about 25 years old and they have absolutely not degraded in any way. So I'm kind of like, what did they put in these crayons to make them so unstable in just that short time period? It's kind of spooky. But the crayons, they work okay. They work just like any cheap crayon that you've ever seen. They can stay in the past. And this brings us to the grand finale. Now, for this art supply, we actually have a twofer.
A 2-in-1.
These are the paint colors King's Yellow, which is a really beautiful, deep, rich yellow, which was used all the way back during the ancient Egyptian times, and the color Sheely's Green. And Sheely's Green is this incredible bluish green color, and this color was invented in the 1700s, and this color was used in wallpapers and textiles. Now, these colors unfortunately do not exist anymore. People do not use these anymore. These colors are no longer in existence. And the reason that these two colors are no longer around are because they are both arsenic based. Now, if you don't know what arsenic is, it is an incredibly toxic poison. In fact, out of everything that we've talked about today, arsenic by far is the most dangerous thing.
In humans, exposure to arsenic can damage the way cells communicate and function. And high levels of arsenic have been directly linked to cancer and heart disease. As a result, 18th century fabric factory workers were often poisoned, and women in green dresses reportedly collapsed from exposure to arsenic on their skin. Bedbugs were rumored not to live in green rooms, and it's even been speculated that Napoleon died from slow arsenic poisoning from sleeping in his green wallpapered bedroom.
Sheely's green was so dangerous that anytime it would rain, the humidity would mess with the wallpaper, releasing the arsenic, and it would kill you overnight. This was so common that they actually called it the green death. And there is another color that was famous around that time called Paris green, which also is arsenic based, which I've talked about before, but I want to make it very clear that Paris green is different than Sheely's green. Now, luckily, I was able to find the exact replicas, but made safely. I've talked about him before. Ryan DEMAREE is a artist slash business owner who will actually get the authentic substances and like recreate the actual toxic paint, and then he will color match exactly the same color, except of course with safe paints. It's really cool what he's doing. I'll link his store down below, but that's where I was able to find safe versions of these ultra rare paints. Now, both of these colors are just absolutely so gorgeous. They're both very unique. Sheely's green is a lot more bluish than a regular green, and King's yellow is a lot more rich than a regular yellow, and they're just absolutely so beautiful. In fact, out of all the art supplies that have been rejected over time, I'm surprised that no company, besides Ryan of course, have recreated these colors. They're just so beautiful. And I do think that out of everything, we need to bring these back pronto. Well guys, there you go. That was art supplies that are now illegal to buy. I always love to do these art history type of videos. It's always so fun. If you want to see more videos like this, I have an entire playlist of rare art supplies that I will link down below. Thank you so much again for watching. Happy drawing, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye.